Welcome Gemini, it's your in-depth weekly forecast for week commencing the 6th of May for the Ascendant or the Sun or the Moon. On the screen now I'm showing your event chart. Now Saturn's been in your 10th house, and there you can see him at the top there, for just over a year, which has been a burden, but it's also been a challenge or a prompt to test out your credentials in terms of your desire to raise your profile or showcase your talents. But you have had the much more shimmering and expressive energies in some ways of Neptune since 2012 in that area, and that's where this week's story begins. Both those planets are linking in very productively to planets in house 12. So the 10th house is where, it's where we gain recognition, or it's where we want to connect to the wider world, or it's where we interact with people who are influential. But the 12th house is where we want to withdraw a little bit. So how does that correlate? Well, I think essentially Jupiter in your 12th house has probably been expanding your interest in spirituality, healing, and possibly in some ways things like meditation over the last 12 months. But the link with Neptune, the two co-rulers of Pisces, is lovely in a way, because if you are someone who is a person who helps other people, particularly to do with your work, and you are very compassionate, or you're a healer or a carer, or you work in the medical profession, your skills, your sensitivity can actually be what people really appreciate about you. But also the fact that you can be discreet, because very unfairly Geminis have a reputation of being somewhat indiscreet. Now of course we can all let things slip at times. The issue with you is that you have such a lively probing mind. Information is essentially your currency, so that could be why you're tempted at times to let the odd thing slip. But the fact that Saturn connects to the Sun does suggest that your discretion can be very important, not just this week, but over the next 4 weeks. And it's possible that you may be discussing something that is to do with your career, but it may not be an open discussion. Someone may want you to sign a non-disclosure agreement, for example, or just keep something to yourself as some information builds up. But it can be to your ultimate advantage, because from the 20th of May, Gemini, your month is going to get seriously sensational. But from now until then, there is some activity going on still in that more shielded, more protective 12th house. So there is those big contrasts. The 10th house is really up there and out there. The 12th house is much more shielded and protective. But Mercury, your ruling planet, is in house 11, very bubbly, brilliant for social interaction, and by the end of this week it reaches the very cusp of coming out of its post-retrograde shadow. So when the retrograde began, 27 degrees in the sign of Aries, it's going to unravel from that by the following Monday to this one, the 13th of May. But I feel, because Mercury is in such a close alliance with Chiron right at the start of this week, your ability to think into situations but also express points in a careful way, an intuitive way, because of the 12th house energies, I feel that that is going to be something people will appreciate, because you can see that Mercury actually links in a semi-sextile with Uranus. So thinking outside the box but delivering the message in a way that other people can be very responsive to. But of course you have Mars, the North Node, and the Moon very close together in your 11th house. So good friendships, good connections, sincere connections are going to be very important this week. And when it comes to your work, it may be as much as as what you know, but your deeper knowledge, your more psychological understanding of person kind is really very important. But let's also consider the role of Pluto and Mars. Last week, they came into an exact sextile for the first time in over 200 years between the signs of Aries for Mars and Pluto for Aquarius. And if you are someone who is learning something, or is a teacher, or you have a philosophy that you want to share with people, or you're a writer, you want to publish, or you want to interact with a group dynamically, as long as you're connecting to people for the right reasons, and they're people who really understand you, because that 12th house energy, then this could be a really productive week for you, which takes us to that new moon. 12th house new moons, to be honest, are not easy. But this is the 12th house new moon, which I feel points towards a lot of experience over a long period of time coming back to you in a really grand way. It's sometimes the case in life that when people are older, which is different from experience in a way, because some younger people in terms of life years can have huge experience. Other people who are older may not have had those experiences. But whatever experiences you've had in terms of your life, your knowledge, your education, the jobs you've done, the personal experiences you've had, they can be very enriching on the back of this particular Taurus new moon. And it's important for you to recognize that some of the qualities and the things you've gained are not necessarily tangible. And that's interesting, because with Saturn in the mix, we often think about tangibility. But Saturn's also about karma. It's also about time. It's about patterns. But it's also about boundaries. And perhaps one of the lessons with the angle between Saturn and this particular new moon is don't overburden yourself in terms of trying to reach a goal or an ambition if it doesn't work for you in a more spiritual or psychological way. But for sure, someone's going to be really interested in what you have to say this week. It's just making sure that your output is directed towards the right audience. And with 12th house energy, it is important to stay a little bit guarded and keep just an acute awareness to who may have angles that they may not necessarily be openly displaying. So, it is the sector of hidden enemies in traditional astrology, and that's where that new moon is. But on this particular year, I think there's lots of merit there. And as the week draws to a close, Venus in your 12th house, which could see you feeling quite nostalgic for someone from your past, but it could also see someone get in touch you used to work with particularly. And because Venus obviously can relate to our partnerships and affections, and where we show our love language, Venus in the 12th house is giving you a deeper understanding or a deeper need. So although you can manifest at times a very quick move in, a little bit of a flirty, frivolous side of your nature, this is a bit more of a serious time for you, but a serious time with a lot of potential. Gemini, have a great week. But if you've yet to subscribe to my channel, do so now.